So the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, regarding the Zman Hanuka, regarding the time, the appropriate time to light Chanuka candles. So it says, Mitzvasa mishetishka hachama ad shetichla regel min hashuk. That the Gemara says the mitzvah is to light candles at shkiyas hachama. So that's a machlokas rishonim. The Rambam and others say that means sunset, and the Mordechai and others say it means Seitzach Chavim. So either way, that's the Gemara. Mitzvah mishatishka hachama. So what does exactly mean mitzvah mishatishka hachama? So there's a fundamental machlokas between the Rambam and the Rashba, how you interpret those words, because we find the Rambam writes that one has to light Chanukah candles at Shkia, lo ma'achrim, lo makdimin. The Rambam writes you can't do it earlier, you can't do it later. You have to light candles in Shkiyasa. That's the Rambam. And the Rashba has two questions on the Rambam. The Rashba disagrees. Number one, he says you don't have to light. You don't have to actually light at Zman Mitzvasa. The Rambam writes you have to write. The Rambam holds you have to light it. Shkia is the mitzvah, so you must light at Zman Mitzvasam. So the way the Rambam interprets the Gemara Mitzvasa, that the Kiyum HaMitzvah must happen when you do the Ma'isa Adlaka, the Kiyum Mitzvah must happen at the same time. And the Rashba disagrees and says, what are you talking about? The Ma'isa and Kiyum Mitzvah don't have to happen at the same time. I have two rayas against you. One is near Shabbos, one is near Chanukah. Near Shabbos, we all know we light before Shkia, 18 minutes before sunset, and yet even the Rashba says, even though the mitzvah isn't until later on, as the Rashba learns from the Sugya in the Gemara, that the purpose, you have to use certain oils or not to smell bad, because the concern is you might leave. Why is they are concerned that it's a bad smell, so leave. Who cares if you leave? No, he says that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah of lighting is hanukas chovehi. The point is oneg Shabbos, and you have to get benefit from it. So the Rashba says we do it every Shabbos. The Ma'isa Hanuka happens at Kodem Shkia, and the Kiyam HaMitzvah doesn't happen until you get home from shul and have the Suda. So we see from near Shabbos the Ma'isa and Kiyam are separated, and we don't even have to go to near Shabbos. If we go to near Chanukah on Friday night, we see the same thing. The mitzvah is at nightfall, so clearly on Shabbos, Friday night, we can't light at nightfall, we light Friday afternoon. And therefore we light before Shabbos, and the Kiyam HaMitzvah, that's why we have to make sure we have enough oil. We have to have the long candles, or the Shabbos candles, or a lot of oil. And therefore you light the candles before Shabbos, but the Kiyam HaMitzvah doesn't happen until later. So we see both by near Shabbos all year round and near Chanukah Friday night, we see it's clear evidence of the Ma'isa Mitzvah happening earlier and the Kiyam HaMitzvah not happening later, and there's no problem. And you make a bracha in both of those cases, the Rashba writes. So therefore, what is the Rambam talking about? That the Ma'isa and Kiyam must be both at the same time. So how would the Rambam answer both questions? So regarding near Shabbos, so there's the Rashba is clear that the mitzvah hadlakas neiros, the main purpose is oneg Shabbos, is to get benefit from the meal, and therefore I'm doing the Ma'isa before Shkia, and the Kiyam is not till an hour later, so it's clear. But however, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Shabbos, he talks about the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos and the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. So Oneg Shabbos, he agrees with the Rashba. There's a mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. But he has a strange, and the Rashba also, everyone agrees there's a concept of Kavod Shabbos and Oneg Shabbos. That's not a debate. The Karasiko Shabbos, that's a pasuk in Yeshaya. But the machlokes here is what is the nature of the mitzvah Hadlakas Neiros. So according to the Rashba, the purpose of Hadlakas Neiros Shabbos is for Oneg Shabbos. The chiddush of the Rambam is going to be, not only is it for Hadlakas Ner Oneg Shabbos, but it's even going to be for Kavod Shabbos, because the Rambam writes, the mitzvah is to set up the candles, and you should light the house before, you should light the candles before Shabbos. So they say, the Mepharshim say, well, wow, like do I need the Rambam to tell me I can't light candles on Shabbos? What's the Rambam telling me you have to light the candles before Shabbos? Of course, you can't light the candles on Shabbos. No, the Rambam's not just telling me the obvious. He's telling me a big chiddush. He's telling me the second component of the mitzvah hanukas neris is it's a function of kavod Shabbos. So the Rambam is saying hanukas neris has both qualities, kavod and oneg. So therefore, the Rambam was shitason. The Rambam sticks to his guns that the Maisa and Kiyam have to be together. So when you light the candles, you're doing the Maisa mitzvah, and the Kiyam mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos is happening right away. So that's consistent with his view, and the Rashba holds the function of Hadlakas Neros is Oneg Shabbos, hence the Rashba brings a raya for his view. So it's a fundamental machlokes whether the Rama holds Hadlakas Neros goes on Kavod and Oneg, or the Rashba holds going on Oneg, and therefore that's the Machokas Ushitas, and the Rashba holds you can do a Maisa mitzvah even though the Kiyam mitzvah is happening later, while the Rambam holds you need them both together. Okay, that's near Shabbos. What about near Chanukah, Friday night? So clearly everybody agrees, be it the Rashba, be it the Rambam, you have to light candles before Shkia. Everyone agrees to that. So the Rashba says it's another raya, because whether the mitzvah is at Shkia or it's the mitzvah at Tzeitzach Chavim, I mean everyone agrees anyway, even if the mitzvah at Shkia it has to go to Tzichel Regel Minashuk anyway, but the Rashba holds that the mitzvah is at Tzeitzach Chavim. Mishatishka Chama means Seitz. So even according to those Rishonim who say the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is at Tzeitzach Chavim, they all agree you have to light candles before Shabbos. So again, the Rashba says, look, Friday night's my proof. Friday night I light candles at 4:45, and the Kiyam HaMitzvah isn't to 5:45. So we see you could separate the Maisa Hadlaka from the Kiyam HaMitzvah. And the Rashba says this is true about Friday night, it's also true about every other night. That if we see it's true by Friday night, so who I did by all other nights, that the Maisa can be done earlier, as long as the candles even so according to the Rashba, even if you light before Seitz, but if the candles are still going for the appropriate time, l'chora is not a problem. So that's the Rashba. So again, so he says that's the kasha on the Rambam. So what does the Rambam do with the raya from Ner Chanukah? Clearly, the Rambam has to agree, Ner Chanukah you light candles before Shkia, and yet the Kiyam HaMitzvah won't begin until Shkia. So how could the Rambam say? So one answer is, Ein Danim Evsham Yevshar. You're right. Don't bring me any rayas. This is an exception to the rule. Like we mentioned normally the klal of the brach, klal in the Gemara is, you make your brachas over lasiyasan. What about tefillas ger? Okay, you're right. But so don't just bring a right that since tefillas ger is after we make all the brachas after, tefillas ger is an exception to the rule, because it's the yefshar. So too here. Einachinami near Shabbos, I'm lighting early, but I have no choice. It's because of Shabbos, and therefore you can't bring me any rayas from near Shabbos, near Chanukah Friday night. I have no option. However, perhaps we could bring a raya to the Rambam even Friday night. So Rav Turchin explained as follows: that no. So the question is, we know. Let's working with the Rashba, or let's working with Seitz. So however we're going to work, it won't make a difference. But let's assume the mitzvah of lighting near Shabbos is the mitzvah of lighting near Chanukah is Seitzach Uchavim, Mishatishka Chama. So it's every night. So the Gemara, the Brisa doesn't make any distinctions. On Monday the mitzvah is this time. Wednesday this time, Shabbos this time. A blanket statement in the Gemara, mitzvasa mishatishkat chama. So pashtus, whatever the zman mitzvah is, it's the same every night of the week. That's the raya of the Rashba, that the zman mitzvah Friday night is no different than Tuesday night, and therefore the fact we light candles early Friday night shows the Maisa and the Kiyam could be separate. So what is the Rambam? So the Rambam disagrees with that premise, or you could say the Rambam disagrees with this premise, and says no. The holiday of Chanukah is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. It's a rabbinical holiday. So clearly the rabbis knew that they couldn't light Hanukkah candles on Shabbos. So clearly it's built into the takana that when the rabbi said you have to light candles 8 days, at least one of the days being Hanukkah, sometimes twice, it was built and they knew you weren't going to light on Shabbos, you're going to light before Shabbos. So Kak Tiknu, the way the Rambam learns is that Chazal changed his Zman HaMitzvah on Friday night to earlier. All week long it's Shkia, on Shabbos it's whatever, 20 minutes before Shkia, whatever, whatever, Samach or Shkia, whatever time it might be, because Chazal knew that you could light Hanukkah candles on time. What's his raya? What's Rav Tershin's raya? You could say it's a big chiddush. Pashtus HaGemara, it's the same Kiyam HaMitzvah every night. Where does the Rav Tershin get that you can say this chiddush in the Rambam that Friday night's different? So he brings the raya from the following halacha. We have a sugya in the Gemara whether kavsa zakikla or kavsa eina zakikla. That when the candles, so really the halacha is we paskin hanuka osa mitzvah. We paskin when you light the candles you fulfill the mitzvah. In other words, if I light my candles and they have the appropriate time left on them, or I light my oil and they have enough time for the appropriate, whatever the appropriate time is, even if the candles go out 5 minutes later, I fulfill my mitzvah. Because as long as I had the potential to fulfill my mitzvah when I lit the candles, it's a go. In contrast to if I sat there pouring oil on top of my candles, that the oil continued to light, but I didn't have it at the time of Hanukkah, it's a no-go. And in fact, that's the distinction Rav Aaron Soloveitchik made, that electric menorahs are no good, but a battery-operated light is good, because the electric light is consumed as generated as consumed. It goes through, as you're doing it, as it's generating, you're consuming it, and you keep on adding more, like pouring oil onto a candle. But Masha'en came, the battery power, the source is there, and therefore it's a go. So we paskin hanuka osa mitzvahs. Therefore it makes sense. So the halacha is if your candle goes out 5 minutes later, we paskin kavsa eino zakik la. You don't have to relight it. So therefore, let's say you light candles at 6 p.m., say tachochavim, and that's it. So that's it. You don't have to relight it. That's a given. The shaila is, what about Friday afternoon? Even, let's say you have to light before Shkia. So therefore you light candles at 4:45. And let's assume sunset is 5 o'clock. And say to 6. So 5:45, whatever time you want. So the question is, let's say you light your candles before Shabbos. Obviously, if you were Makabel Shabbos already, then what could you do? You're honest. But let's assume we go with the order, even though it's a discussion in the Rishonim, we go with the meaning that first near Chanukah, then near Shabbos, because it doesn't look right that you're going to do near Shabbos and then you're going to light near Chanukah after. It looks like you're being Machal Shabbos. Technically, you're not. It doesn't look proper. So our meaning is we do near Chanukah and then to near Chanukah. So if you lit the Chanukah candles, then you were Makabel Shabbos and your Chanukah candles went out. It's an academic question. There's nothing you could do. I guess you could discuss getting a guy to light it, but that's a separate discussion. So, but what happens if you light the Chanukah candles and you're about to light the Shabbos candles and the Chanukah candles go out? So you'll say, well, what's the kasha? Kav sein zakakla. However, perhaps the issue is maybe Friday night's different. Why in the world would we discriminate against Friday night Shabbos? Because, as follows, because if we assume like the Rashba, that there's no difference between the Kiyam HaMitzvah, Leil Shabbos and Tuesday night, the mitzvah is not happening to 5:45. That doesn't make sense. The Rashba says if you light at 5 o'clock, and the candles are still going up 5:45 and they go until 7, the Rashba for sure says it's good. But the question is, according to the Rashba, if the Kiyam HaMitzvah isn't to 5:45 and the lights go out at 4:45, then it doesn't make sense that you'd be Yotze. So the kasha is, so Pashas, we should say, in that situation, you should have to relight. Yet, the Rambam Shita and in Shulchan Aruch, they follow the Shitas HaRambam. Even Friday night, Kafsa Eino Zokek law. The Machaber, the Taz is Cholek, but the Machaber writes, Kafsa Eino Zokek law. If the candles go out Friday night, you still don't have to go back. It can't hurt to relight them, but there's no chiyuv to go back. And the Taz disagrees and says, no, all week long you don't have to go back, but Friday night so what is this machlokas Machaber and the Taz? This seems to be our issue, the Rambam and the Rashba. The Machaber is going with the Rambam that really kach tiknu. Friday night the Zman HaMitzvah changes, because what's my raya? Since we pass in Kaf Se'in Zakak law, it only makes sense if it's the Zman HaMitzvah now. So it must be Friday night. Chazal knew it was going to be Shabbos. They said the mitzvah is earlier. So therefore, you go with the classical din of Kaf Se'in Zakak law. But the Taz seems to be working with the Rashba that no, Leil Shabbos is no different than any other week. The Kiyam HaMitzvah doesn't begin until later on. So therefore, if it goes out before the Zman HaMitzvah, you could still relight. So of course you have to relight. So it's the Rambam and the Rashba Lishitason. The fundamental question is, can you separate the Maisa and the Kiyam HaMitzvah? The Rambam says no. The Maisa and Kiyam always have to be together. And the Rashba says no. That the Maisa, so the Maisa and Kiyam, as we see from Ner Chanukah and Ner Shabbos, the Rambam disagrees.
The Rambam would hold that there's a separate time on Friday night. Yeah,
he holds that. If you pass in Kaf Se'in Zakak law, that means you have to hold that the mitzvah is earlier Friday night.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the Machaber. The Machaber is like the Rambam, and the Taz is like the Rashba. I'll give you another case. Tell me who it's a raya for. There's a lach of Fri Jun haben. We know you have to redeem your firstborn Peter Rechem. It goes by mommy, not by daddy. In fact, I know someone who had 2 Fri Jun haben. How could he have 2 Because he had 2 wives. Not simultaneously anymore, but he married someone, divorced, and he married someone else, and it was the first child. It was both Peter Rechem. So the halach is 30 days you redeem your child to a Kohen. You give them the money, etc. So the shaila is, what happens if the Kohen's not going to be around during that time? So there are those achronim who write, so have an eight. So what you do is, you do the Nesina, let's say it's day 15. You do a Nesina al Tanai. You say, and with a bracha, he says, you make the bracha now on Fri Jun haben, and you say, I want it to be fulfilled on day 30, after day 30, whatever the appropriate time is. So the post can write that it works. So that seems to be a raya at first glance for the Rashba, that even though everyone agrees the Kiyam HaMitzvah is not happening until later, nevertheless, you could do the Maisa Mitzvah early. Then maybe the Rambam is cholek on that halacha, and maybe he'll say, either you have to say the Rambam is cholek, or you have to say Fri Jun haben is different. Maybe it's a different rule. Because we do find by other mitzvahs, we had it by our Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, by the Tzitzin HaMa'akvin and the Tzitzin She'ena Ma'akvin. We had that, let's say you go back, the Gemara says if you're in the middle of doing the Milah, you just finish anything you're doing. But a Perish, so on the Tzitzin Ma'akvin you go back, on the Tzitzin She'ena Ma'akvin you don't go back. So obviously they say Perish, so on the Tzitzin Ma'akvin, Pasha should make a bracha, like you can do the Mitzvah Milah. What about if you're only going back, let's say you did the bris on Monday, and on Wednesday you're going back to do the Tzitzin She'ena Ma'akvin. Do you make a bracha? So that seems, so that seems to be the issue, because it's clearly only a hider mitzvah. So if you make a bracha on a hider, So.
But over here by the Pidyon Ben, what's the hitter?
No.
This is different.
No, there is no. I'm not saying Pidyon Ben. I'm saying it's a. Pidyon Ben seems to be a raya that you don't need the mayim. As I'm saying, either the Rambam could be cholik. Maybe he says you can't do that. I'm saying is maybe the Rambam is cholik, or maybe I'm saying the two possibilities. The Rambam could be cholik on that din, or he could say Pidyon Ben is different for some reason. I'm just bringing out another example with the Mila. So the shaila is, could you do? Because that was the whole thing. We had the whole machlokas. We said Rambam and the Torah whether you go back during the week. The Rambam says you don't go back, and the Rashi and Torah say yes. And the issue was, according to the Beis Halevi, is could you separate is hiddur mitzvah inherent in a mitzvah Mila or not? So we said if it's inherent. So therefore, once you finish the mitzvah Mila, that's it, it's over. But if you hold it's independent, you can't. That got into so that was a discussion, the Rambam and the Rama, whether one person makes the bracha or not. But either way, what comes up is as follows: when is the earliest time to light Shabbos candles? What is the pshuto? Friday afternoon. What time is the earliest you can light? Can I light Shabbos candles at 10 a.m.?
No.
Right, so one can. I don't need a time. What? Correct. The halachic time period is Plaga Mincha. So let's assume in a 6 to 6 day it's 4:45. The halacha is Pashtus. You can't light Chanukah. You can't light Shabbos candles. You can't accept.
No, it would be around 2, wouldn't it?
What? Plaga Mincha.
Oh no, sorry. The
Plaga Mincha is an hour or quarter before. Yeah. So the question is.
So
actually, so big deal. So
you're right.
So light afterwards. So I got this kasha many years ago. For the first time, since then I've got this question all the time. I got the question. I was up in the Catskills. It usually comes up in the summer. That's when it's really an issue. If you're making early Shabbos, if you're making regular Shabbos, it's not usually an issue. If you're making early Shabbos, so therefore the issue is, you daven, assuming you do it the appropriate way. Again, each shul is different. Each Rav will make his decision. You might have to go for a Tarte de Sastre if not, but I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying, let's assume you can do it the ideal way, and therefore you should daven mincha before Shkia. So let's say Plaga Mincha is 5 o'clock. So you should call mincha for 4:45. So therefore you get mincha before Shkia, and then you get Ma'ariv after. The problem is if you get to shul 4:45 and Shkia is at 5, if Plaga Mincha is at 5, then what do you do about candles? So if you're going to shul your wife's home, so you're lighting. That's how most people. But this case was his wife passed away. He used to light the candles, and now you get it. Now many women want to come to shul and come and daven, whatever the case. But the kashas come up many times over the years. I was always wondering how come I haven't seen this shayla like in the earlier sources, and then I realized because making early Shabbos is a North American minhag. Wasn't I'm not saying it's definitely halacha you're allowed to. You can make early Shabbos, and we have Tosefes Shabbos, but in terms of apparently it wasn't the practice in Europe or is now that Americans are going to Israel. Some people told me they have early minyanim, but basically it's a new practice. So therefore, so it makes sense. But it's a major problem. So what do you do if you're going? Right. So number one is a major problem. So you can just tell. So what can I tell you? Daven mincha at home, light candles, and then go to shul. But again, it depends who you're talking to.
Can't you light candles without being Makabel Shabbos and then Makabel?
Right. So I'm going to get in. I'm going to get into that issue in a second.
That's totally on whether the mice mitzvah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's going to be my lead mitzvah. But I'm just saying. When I spoke to anyone about it, no one I'll tell you why my lumditz why I thought there's room to be mako. I'm not saying it lemaisa. I'm saying it more as a lead mitzvah on those after the fact. But I spoke to people. Oh no, there's no way you can't light before. You can't light before. I didn't bracha about don't make a bracha. I'm not saying what bracha l'vatala. So either it's good or it's not good, but it won't be. It's not a bracha l'vatala. It should just don't make a bracha. But either way, so obviously, so if somebody. So obviously, if you're going to daven mincha, it's not good. But I'm getting the question I get many times from people who are, let's say, marginally observant. It's not like what do you mean? I have yours. I got to say, so I got to be there for mincha. I have to say kaddish. Whatever. It's not someone who's like. It's not a matter of they understand how halacha works and what do you mean? What do you mean I can't light? What do you mean don't light Shabbos candles this week? That stuff is so foreign. So I'm just saying, but so the issue goes like this. It's totally on a couple of things. It's actually a tosfos in Shabbos. The shaila is, let's say you have a near doluk before Shabbos. So could you use that Shabbos for Shabbos candles? So there's two shitas in tosfos. One sheet is no, you gotta blow it out and relight l'shem Shabbos. And another opinion says no. I think, and he says you could just use that. I think the sheet that says it holds you don't make a bracha on halachas near Shabbos. But either way, but if you did l'chor, you should be able to make a bracha. So it's 2 days in tosfos. So number one, the shaila seems to be 2 days. So number one, because what's the issue of light? So the first date is so why not light candles before Praga Mincha? So they'll tell you it's not a ma'isa hanuka. Because obviously, what do you mean it's not a ma'isa hanuka? It is a ma'isa hanuka, but it's not a ma'isa hanuka in the Zman HaMitzvah. The working with the Rambam, that clearly. So number one is twofold. So if you take the second sheet in Tosfos, it shouldn't be a problem. You could use that candle that was lit before Shabbos. So just light the candle. But the Ramah seems to paskin with the first shita. So you need a ma'isa hanuka. Okay. So number one is the machlokas rishonim, but I agree the Ramah paskins I can need a ma'isa hanuka. Okay, so you need a ma'isa hanuka. So why can't you do the ma'isa hanuka and the kiyam mitzvah later? So my thing is, it seems to be a machlokas the Rambam and the Rashba. Then can you separate the ma'isa and the kiyam? According to the Rambam, so okay, I mode you can, but according to the Rashba, and if we do it near Chanuka Friday night, we see it works. So why not work Shabbos as well? So to me, that'd be another limit schus. I'm just saying there's a limit the lumdis, not lamaisa. But so therefore I don't see why al pi lumdis you can. Again, I'm not saying it's not the ideal. I'm not saying the other ways of a person's going to daven min can do that fine. I'm saying someone who's not going to. If the question is, should you light candles or not light candles? If that's the choice. So, what's the harm of lighting candles? So, don't make a bracha because it's suffik brachas l'hakel. But maybe I'll tell you it's a svek sveika. It's a machlokas rishonim whether you need a ma'isa hanuka. And even if you assume you didn't need a ma'isa hanuka, who says you can't have the ma'isa hanuka before the kiyum mitzvah? Well, it sounds like a svek sveika to be meko. But but when I speak to people, no one wants to. When I press them, they have no answers for me. Why not? But they just say no. You can't. You can't light early. And then so that's what it's. And then there's another shaila. Then I say according to the Rambam, but where does Praga Mincha? It's unclear where does Praga Mincha come from anyway. But I want to say another pshat. According to the Rambam, why can't you light before Praga Mincha? According to the Rambam, what does he say? Hanukas Neiris is a din in covered Shabbos. Covered Shabbos starts before Praga Mincha. Yeah, maybe Hanukkah. Obviously he's assuming if you assume Hanukas Neiris is totally in Kabbalah Shabbos, so that's one thing. But we don't assume that way. So why can't you do Hanukas Neiris out the mitzvah of covered Shabbos? Again, there's room. In the case of Pidyon Aben, they even make a bracha. You can even argue the fact maybe even with a bracha, but certainly why not without a bracha? So it's actually in Florida it's an issue because a lot of older people who don't have spouses anymore. So someone told me, I can't confirm this. They said they daven mincha and then they light candles in shul. To me, it seems like you're running from the pan to the fire by doing that, because that's a shiloh of yotze pashas. What's lighting in shul?
At all.
It's not. You're not eating in shul. Like, it's one thing if you're eating in shul. It's not your buy it. I'm saying really you should light it in your home. But there's a discussion. Okay, if you're eating in someone's house, let's say b'di'evid, maybe you could rely on it. But lighting in shul, that sounds like a bracha l'vatala to me. I'm not saying I didn't speak to the rabbi. I'm not saying he actually said it. Maybe he says to light it without a bracha. Maybe he's saying it to make them feel good, but he doesn't think you get it. I could come up with any possibility. I never really spoke to the rabbi if it's even true. But someone said that, someone said that issue. And then I'm saying, plus the fact that what's my raya, you don't need a maisa, not that you don't need it, but what's my raya, the b'di'evid, it's good without a maisa hanuka? Because let me ask you something. The following case, I asked this to this when I was pressing this person about it. I said, okay, so what about the following case? Let's say it's after Shkia. A woman hasn't lit Shabbos candles, so what do?
Then you after Shkia.
Let's assume it's Ben Hashmashos, let's assume.
So once it's after Shkia ready, you can't light them.
Yeah. So I think Rabbi gave you this. Yeah, no, it's Rabbi gave you. You can't do anything. Rabbi Kiveger suggests.
So a guy lights them.
Yes, you get a guy. It's a whole discussion. Ain't shchiach la'akum. But what does some poskim say? The guy lights it, and you make a bracha. So there's no ma'isa hadlaka. A guy's like a monkey in that case. It's not. It's just a ma'isa hedger. He's not involved in the mitzvah. It's like the same way if a monkey lit the.
But how can you make a bracha if it's something you can't do?
No, yeah, exactly. That's my. No, what do you mean? No, but it's ben hashmashas.
Okay.
No,
okay.
No, you can't. Amir l'nachu l'mati ben hashmashas. But I'm just saying is, but my proof is, where's the? What do you mean? There's no ma'isa hadlaka. You're making a bracha there. So what are you telling me? You need a ma'isa hadlaka. Here's the raya. We don't need one. Not meaning not b'di'evid b'shat tzadchak. We don't need one. Not l'chat. I'm agreeing. So he said, yeah, that's difficult also. I agree, it's difficult. It's difficult, and you do it. So before Plag Mincha is difficult. So difficult. I'm not talking about an ideal situation. I'm talking in a case where you have no option, and the person's not going to listen anyway. So therefore, I'm not saying it halacha l'maisa, but I'm saying, I spend a lot of time thinking about this because I kept on getting this shiloh. I see how this shiloh is very halacha l'maisa. Not that I've spoken to so many people about it. Everyone I speak to don't want to be maskim. But when I press them, they have no answers for me. I say, when I ask them in Lamdis, like, what about here and there? They just call. They say, I'm aware of all that, but I bring in all my riots from Pidgeon on Ben, from lighting before, and then the case of the guy, it's mashra b'di'evid. If you don't, unless you want to taina that lighting ben hashmashas by a guy is better than you before Plag HaMincha. You don't even have a chefser near Shabbos. But during Shkia already, it's by potential to light into. Maybe they hold lighting candles before Plag. I guess it's not even. But then so why is Pidgeon on bed different and why other things? I'm just saying.
But you don't have.
And also, what about the other? My another idea is, okay, if you're making early Shabbos, so good. So when you come back, let another Jew light the candle, or let a guy do it then, and then make a bracha.
You don't have a mitzvah anymore of lighting ben hashmashos, do you?
What do you mean?
I mean, your mitzvah's gone.
It's a suffix.
Because you can't. Right.
Yeah, so it's a suffix. So therefore.
It's a suffix. So you still have the mitzvah?
Why not? Well, it's a suffix mitzvah.
Oh, okay.
It's a suffix. You definitely.
So why would you make a bracha on a suffix mitzvah?
You definitely have the mitzvah. There's definitely a mitzvah of oneg Shabbos now. We could discuss cover. There's definitely a mitzvah of oneg Shabbos. So therefore.
But it's a suffix whether it's Shabbos ready, in which case it would be an event.
No, but either way, I'm saying it doesn't. There's no. Let's say with the Rashba, the mitzvah is not happening to 6 o'clock. I light before Shkia only because I can't light after. But if I get a guy to light after, so the mitzvah is still there. I'm going to have my sudas So that it's not a suffix in the mitzvah. It's only a suffix. Now, the issue is it's a suffix Shabbos. Hence, I can do the Ma'aseh Hanuka myself. So I guess so. Or I'm just saying it. So the other eitzah would be coming, assuming you have someone, but then you have coming back, going back after shul, and having a guy. The question is there any difference between you lighting the candle before plag and then coming back and making the bracha later on, versus a guy or a yid turning on, lighting the candle for you on not Shabbos for you, not Shabbos for him, but Shabbos for you? Would there be a difference in that case? I'm just saying, but to me it seems to come down to this issue about, and this is the fundamental machlokas Rambam Rashba, the way the Brisker Rav and the Briskers explain it is, whether you could separate the Maisa and Kiyam. Could I do a Maisa mitzvah now, even with a bracha, even though the Kiyam mitzvah? So if the answer is yes, so then there would be basis for lighting candles before plag. Even perhaps, I'm not even suggesting with the bracha, because Savak brachas lahakel, but lighting candles, and then there's no reason so if you could get someone to light the candle after for you, that should be better than Ben Hashmashas. Not everyone, again, that's the point of contention. People don't, that's the reason why people don't like that halakha, because look at, where's the Ma'aseh Hanuka? But I understand that, but the bottom line is, they're doing it. So if you're going to do it there, why not do it here?
Right.
Unless you're machalik between, it's not, but that goes back to my svek sveika, it's a machlokas, and unless they want to say that sheet is rejected completely, but that's the sheet in Tosis already. You don't need a Ma'aseh Hanuka. Even if you need the Ma'aseh Hanuka, who says you need the Ma'aseh and Kiyam at the same time? So that's this issue here. In general, it comes up every Friday night, lighting candles early and having the Kiyam later on, and it specifically comes up every Shabbos Chanukah, lighting the candles early Friday before the Zman Mitzvah, and we pass, and therefore that's the Machogas, the Machaber, and Taz, whether we say Kavsa, Zokak, or even Friday before you light Shabbos candles. And that seems to be the issue here, the Rashba and the Rambam. There's a famous Machokas, the Rambam and the Ramah, regarding how does one fulfill the mitzvah of Mahajim and Mahajim by Ner Chanukah. The Rambam writes, the Ramah and the Rambam agree that if you have 10 people in your home and it's the 8th night of Chanukah, you have 80 candles. The dispute is who lights the 80. According to the Rambam, the Baal Habayis lights all 80, and according to the Ramah, each one lights their own. So comes along the Brisker Rav, and he wants to explain the machlokas between the Rambam and Rashi, Rambam and the Ramah, based on a Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos, on Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel Amid Beis, talks about the mitzvah of Hiddur Mitzvah, and as well as talking about the mitzvah of Milah. The Gemara says, the Tana Rabban Hamal calls Manchu Ostek B'Milah, as long as you're involved in the mitzvah of Milah, Choser Ben Al Sitzin Ma'akvin, it's a Milah, Ben Al Sitzin She'en Ma'akvin, it's a Milah. You go back for the Sitzin Ma'akvin, you go back for the Sitzin She'en Ma'akvin. Perish, Al Sitzin Ma'akvin, it's a Milah Choser, of course you have to go back, you didn't do the mitzvah. Al Sitzin She'en Ma'akvin, it's a Milah, Eino Choser. That's the Gemara in Shabbos, that there's different types of parts of the Milah you have to do to fulfill the mitzvah of Milah. A second aspect of Hiddur Mitzvah. So the question is, for the Sitzin HaMa'akvin, you have to go back and fulfill the mitzvah of Milah. But on Sitzin HaMa'akvin, the Mishnah says Eino Choser. So why Eino Choser? What are we talking about? So Rashi writes, B'Shabbos. So I understand it's on Shabbos. On Shabbos you don't go back because Hiddur mitzvah pashtus is not docha Shabbos. And the Rambam writes, it doesn't. Hamal calls mancho osik b'mila, and he says he doesn't make a distinction between Shabbos and Chol. Nira shesorle sovet ben b'chol ben b'Shabbos. So what's the machokas between the Rambam and Rashi? Whether you go back for the sitzin she'eno ma'akvin. So there's a famous brisker Rab. I'll read to you in Hilchas Chanuka. Nira loma b'yisod pugosam, the foundation for the dispute. Inei Rambam perish al sitzin ma'akvin choser al sitzin she'eno ma'akvin eno choser. Rashi v'torah chokan al zeh v'soyed rak b'mal b'Shabbos v'b'choli olam choser. There's a machokas Rambam and Rashi in the tour whether on Tuesday you do the bris milah and you're eating the bagel and logs and then you realize you left out the tzitzit she'eno ma'akvin. Do I go back after the meal and do it? So Rashi says yes, or tomorrow, and the Rambam says no. To the Ayim Beis Halevi Chelok Beis Shabir Barucha Shitas Haram Tzvile the Din Va'anveyo Shayach Rak Be'ikr Ma'isa HaMitzvah. Zek Keli only applies when it's attached to the Ma'isa Mitzvah Al Kasha Pirish, but when you separate Shuv HaHidr Eino Shayach LaMa'isa HaMitzvah. Once you finish, the mitzvah is over. If he said near it, Zel Gam Taima Da Rambam. This is also the reason for the Rambam. Hakol Inyan near Chanuka. The sphere lay Hakol Hanuka Achas. It's all one Hanuka. If he said Nimsa, the Etza Maisa a mitzvah nasis behidr. Avalim Yailik Kol Echa B'fnei Atzbo V'Halakas Miyuchedes Nimsa. So according to the Rambam, only the Baal Bayis gets the mitzvah, so someone else can't lie because they're doing the hiddur not in the context of the Ma'isa mitzvah. The Rama writes, the pasuk, the B'chol Kagavnet Tzarach Lags are often Kvar Perish. V'akein Shapir Mefarish Divrei Gemara the Neo Kol Echol Echad the Berushahu Dukoyam Amayil V'Gambo V'Nteh B'chal Hiddur Mitzvah L'Didei. So he wants to do the machlokas to Rambam and Rashi by Mila is the same machlokas but Rambam Ramah. Could you do hiddur in the context by itself? And was it enhancing the mitzvah? But if you're not doing the mitzvah, that's it, or it stands on its own 2 feet. So the Ramah seems to say it stands on its own 2 feet and therefore it's a go. I mean, you don't have to learn pshat in the Ramah like that. Ramah could be holding each person's getting their own mitzvah. It's nothing to do with hiddur mitzvah. So what's the issue? The issue is whether it's a chovas habayis or a chovas hagavra. Is someone personally chayev to light Chanuka candles, or as long as near issue base, as long as one candle is lit, so that's enough. The Rama might hold it's a chovas hagavra, well, maybe, and the Rama might hold it's a chovas habayis. So once the bayis is lit, that's it. But maybe if I don't have a mind to fulfill my mitzvahs, maybe it wouldn't be good. So the way the Gra learns it, the Brisker Rav learns it is, it's the same issue as hiddur mitzvah by kol haTorah kulo. However, others point out, we know there's halacha. The Gemara tells us in Baba Kama Daf Tes, the hiddur mitzvah ad shlish b'mitzvah. You spend up to a third of your money for hiddur mitzvah. So we know that when it comes to near Chanukah, you're spending a lot more on the hiddur than you are on the mitzvah itself. There's only one candle per night. So it's going against the general rule of spending more than a third, a shlish mitzvah. So therefore, others point out that perhaps the mitzvah of hiddur by Chanukah is different, even though you have a machlokas regarding other areas, but by near Chanukah, perhaps everybody agrees that the hiddur is connected, that the hiddur is connected to the Ma'isa mitzvah. In fact, that's why we find we have a discussion. The Pri Chodesh raises the Shaila, Misha Yaomi Belel Zayin He should have, it was the seventh night. Because Savra Shu Leal Vav, he made a mistake and he lit 6 candles, V'Hidlik Vav. V'Acharak No Delo Shu Leal Zayin, and afterwards he remembered B'Sarach Nir Echad. So Shiloh can make a bracha on that 7. V'Ashivosa, the Kaven, the Mitzvah Chanukah Nir Ishu Beso, the Enoch the Malach, the Mishum Hidder Lo Bai Lo Bruche. So the Pri Chadash says no, but the Rabbi Kiva Geiger raises a similar kasha. He writes, "V'misha hidluk near Chanukah b'leil ches, v'shachach lo barach al haruach," and he lit all 8 candles and forgot to make a bracha. Rak hodam shehidluk kulam niskar dadayin lo berach, but he was in the middle of lighting them. He remembers, and Yeshua lo barach alo. Nearly the birkat al nisam shachiyanom hiro came b'leil echad after miyad. This is the first, the last 2 brachas are an issue. You definitely make Avlinian bracha lahadulech l'chorek far gemar mitzvasa miyad kachigla nerechad the mashamosef aneros rachmak mazhider matzi de loshayach l'barachala. Vayim Fri Chadash mikom makam adina nearly yesh litzmoch. So the Rabbi Hager raises the issue whether you make a bracha on Hiddur Mitzvah in general, Machoket Eliyel Rabbi Fri Chadash, as well as some other issues. So we'll have to see. So that's the question regarding whether the mitzvah of Hiddur Mitzvah is different on Chanukah, and it seems to be. And we'll conclude with the famous Pnei Yoshua on Shabbos. Yesh Moa. What do we need this whole miracle? Hakaim along, we pass in Tuma Hutra B'Tzibor, that Tuma is okay if there's a Tzibor, if everyone's tummy, it's okay to use tummy oil. But Yechon Lahailok B'Shem and tummy. Ukak Nira, the Ikar Nes Lo Nase Elo Dielem Chibas Hamakam Aleim. Kede Eshka Kon Shenase Zeh HaNes Tamid. V'hoel V'Israche Shuhu Nisa, the Ikar Inyan Shenigu Gula Shlema Miyad Malchus Yovan Arashashu Omrim Lisrael Kasva Karen Ashuria. Lokak Nasalahem Gamkin Nes Zeb Inyan Hanero Shu Edus Yisrael Shashkina Shora Behem. Lokak Nasalam Nes Bazeh Inyan Mamish Bosa Yaban Shu Ace Ratong Odia Shachazu Chivasa Arishona Kain Nearly Nachon. That really the Nes was unnecessary. It just proved he only did it to show his love for Klal Yisrael, so therefore we go out of our way and we do nisim, and that's what the Rambam writes, Neirus Chanukah Chaviva Lav Ma'od, it's so cherished, even after you sell your clothes off your back. Why this mitzvah more? Because of the mitzvah pursuing Nisa, that we show how chaviv this mitzvah is, that we did so much, we went out of our way to try to do it behiddur. So that's why we have the Mahajin. So tonight we'll discuss the topic of Chanukah candles. How many candles is one obligated to light? What are the general customs? So it starts with the Gemara in Shabbos. That's note number 1. We'll read a little bit of the Gemara. The Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, Mitzvah Chanukah Ner Ishu Beso. So the minimum obligation, if you want to know how many candles do you need to fulfill the mitzvah of Chanukah, the answer is 1 candle. If you light 1 candle any night of Chanukah, first night, 5th night, 8th night, you fulfilled it. No one can take the mitzvah away from you. Your pure, unadulterated, plain mitzvah of Chanukah you get with 1 candle. That's the first level. Then the Gemara says, V'amahadrin, if you want to do a little extra, you want to do a more optimal way, Niyar l'chol echad v'echad. Then it says it goes by how many members in your house. So let's work with 10. Let's assume you have 10 members in your home. So then you'd light 10 candles every night of Hanukkah. So the first level is 1 candle every night. That's the basic obligation. It's not debatable. Everyone agrees to that. And the second level also seems to be agreed upon. Mahadrin, 10, I'm making up the numbers, but 10 members in your home, so you have 10 candles every night. That seems to be clear from the Gemara. Then the Gemara goes on and says, "Mahajim and a mahajin," but you want to do the best of the best. You really want to do the ultimate. So that's a dispute between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai omrim Yom Rishon Madlik Shmona Mikan ve'elach Poches v'holech. Beis Shammai says you begin with 8 the first night and you end up with 1 at the last night. And Beis Hillel, the way we know, the we paskin Yom Rishon Madlik Achas Mikan ve'elach Mosif v'holech. So a famous dispute between the house of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. What is mahajim and a mahajim? What order? Is it 8 to 1 or 1 to 8? Yeah.
Is that for each member of the family?
That's a good question. We're going to get to that.
One other question: does that mean if you do it Beis Hillel, is it just the shamash you light, or do you have to actually light another candle?
Yeah, this is no mention of the shamash.
Yeah, I know.
So whatever the shamash is, that's another candle.
Okay.
Right. So first, so the Gemara is going to go through 2 reasons for each. 2 reasons for Beis Hillel, 2 reasons for Beis Shammai. So the Gemara says, Ama Ula, Pligeba Trey, Amorai Marava, Rav Yossi Baravin, Rav Yossi Barzivda, Chadama, time of the Beis Shammai, Keneged Yamin HaNechnasin, the time of the Beis Hillel, Keneged Yamin HaYotzin. So the Gemara says, so they give different reasons to Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai. So do you ask yourself what day of Chanukah it is, or how many days left of Chanukah? So Beis Shammai, on the first day there are 8 days left, on the second day there are 7, that's Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says you go by what day it is, that's one reason. And then the Gemara says, another reason for Beis Shammai is Kineged Parei HaChag, corresponding to the cows of the holiday. What cows of what holiday? So what it means is on Sukkot, it's a universal holiday. We bring karbanos, we bring sacrifices for all the 70 nations of the world, and we go do it in descending order. 13 the first day, 12, 11, 10. So Beis Shammai is saying, just like on Sukkot we see by the karbanos, we go in descending order. So too on Chanuka. The question is obvious. What's the connection? I walk down the steps. Therefore, I should light Chanuka candles descending. What is my Indian Sukkot Eitzel Chanuka? What does the Sukkot have to do with Chanuka? The Beis Shammai wants to learn out the halacha from Sukkot. So there are different similarities. Number one is, not so much today, but we did have Gemara. We used to light candles outside. In Israel, many do, and different places in New York, some still do, but we mostly light inside. But the original institution was to light outside across from the mezuzah. So the Chanukah we do outside. Sukkah, I hope, is outside if you want a kosher sukkah. Another similarity is how many days? There are 8 days of Sukkot, 8 days of Chanukah, and they say each of the rabbinic holidays are patterned after biblical holidays. Like Purim is 1 day, it's patterned after Shavuos. And Chanukah is patterned after Sukkah. So 8 days. And thirdly, there's another halacha very similar. That a Sukkah, l'malo michaf ama, a Sukkah can't be more than 20 amos high. Meaning the Sukkah, I mean the schach. That's what Sukkah means. Because there's halacha, the Torah says, you have to look at the schach and remember the great miracles that God did for us in the Midbar. So, l'malo michayin lo shoet, it's an expression in the Gemara. A person you can't see higher than 20 amos, but if you're walking, a normal passerby doesn't look up, the whole point is to remember the schach, you're not going to see it. So too, the same halacha by Ner Chanukah. Let me point out, you live in an apartment building, it goes by your ground floor, your rod. Doesn't mean if you're on the 100th floor, it's okay to light Hanukkah candles. It means chaf amas from where the ground you're standing on. So we have similar halacha. By Ner Chanukah, above chaf amas is no good either because there's a mitzvah of publicizing the miracle, and it's too high. So we see many similarities between the Yontiv of Sukkot and Chanukah. Hence, Beis Shammai says, Keneged Parei HaChag. That's another reason for Beis Shammai to go down from 8 to 1. And the second reason of Beis Hillel, the Gemara says, Malin B'Kodesh Ve'ein Moridin. Literally, we go up in sanctity, not down. I mean, it's not the usual principle. The classic principle of Malin B'Kodesh is we do every morning, at least men do every morning. We put on the talis first, and then we put on the tefillin. One reason is because Tadya, we mentioned last week, talis is every day, but another reason is the tefillin has a higher level of kedusha, it has Torah inside, so we always go up in sanctity, not down. So first the talis, then the tefillin. It's interesting, the Gemara says it, even though you're just going from one candle to two to three, so apparently the Gemara is equating the more neiros to more kedusha. That's not the classical way here. The classical way is that there's a difference in the actual object, but either way the Gemara says it, so that's it. We just have to figure out what the Gemara means, but that's the given. So
what did the Gemara say?
Gemara says Malin Bakosh Ve'imo read, and therefore Beis Hillel goes up.
Well, I got that, but then they're what, are holy or they're not?
No, I'm just saying it's obviously, and the Gemara seems to be saying the more candles,
right,
then the holier it is. I'm just saying it's the same exact candle. In contrast to talis and tefillin, it's an actual objective difference. That's what I'm pointing out. It's not the normal usage, but the Gemara uses it, so we're forced to say that's what it means. So there's two reasons for each. Two reasons for, so the one for Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, whether you go by what day it is or how many days left, and then either Beis Shammai, the descending order of the Parei Achag, versus Beis Hillel, Malin Bakosh. So that's the Gemara. So there's an interesting, so that's this the Mahajim. So we still don't know exactly what is Mahajim and a Mahajim. It's not clear from the Gemara. So all what is clear is the first level is Ner Ishu Beisa, one candle, any night of Chanukah you fulfill your mitzvah. Mahadrin, 10 people in your home, 10 candles, that's clear. What is Mahajim and a Mahajin? So that's going to be a major dispute between the Bali Tosfos and the Rambam. Let's look at note number 2 and see, or anyone else want to tell me first before we look what do you think Mahajim and Mahajim means? In other words, if you have 10,
it's like to be embellished.
Yeah, so let's say it's the 8th night of Hanukkah and you have 10 members in your household. So what would according to Beis Hillel, what would Mahajim and Mahajim mean?
By lighting a candle per night per person.
So how many candles would you have?
So you would have 10 candles for first night, so 20 candles.
So you're saying you'll have 80 candles. So Mahajim would mean 80 candles. Right. That's one possibility. What would be another one? That's going to be the Rambam. We'll get to it in a minute. The other one is what?
You have 10 candles.
No, that's Mahajin. That's the second level. What would be Mahajim and a Mahajin?
That could be that 8 candles for the person actually making
right,
and then one per person.
Okay, so we'll see Tosas right here. So what does Tosas say? It's note 2, but I guess we'll go down to the second one. Nira Lari, it appears to the Ri, he's one of the Bali Tosas. The Beis Shammai Beis Hillel lo kaimi ela ner ishu beiso. So basically, Tosas is learning, we're going back to level number 1 now. So level number 1 is one candle every night of Hanukkah. So what would be Mahajim and a Mahajin according to Beis Hillel? 1, 2, 3. You add another candle every day, and Beis Shammai would go 8, 7, 6. So according to Tosas, that's it. Only one person's lighting. You'll have 8 candles. According to Tosas, Mahajim and Mahajim would be is you'll have 8 candles the last night of Hanukkah. No matter, it's irrelevant how many members of your family, that doesn't play a role. The bottom line, and why is that the ideal according to Tosfos? Why is having one menorah in your home, that's it? So Tosfos writes, Shekain yesh yoter hider, the ikar hakera keshamosavilla, because apparently Tosfos is saying the highest level of Mahajin, of publicizing the miracle, is to know, it's not enough to know it's Hanukkah, but you have to know what day of Chanukah it is. So therefore, it's a greater hiddur. Oh wow, I know. Look, 2 candles. It's the second day of Chanukah. 3 candles. But if a person had 80 candles, what is it? The 80th night of Chanukah? Like what's going on here? No one knows. It's not telling me anything about what day of Chanukah. So Tos's opinion clearly is that Mahajin is defined by the most recognizable way to publicize what day of Chanukah it is, and therefore that makes sense. Therefore, you go with one candle, and that's it. One menorah per household, end of discussion. We'll come back to that in a minute. Look at the next note, the Rambam. The Rambam disagrees and says, Kama nerusu maruk b'Chanukah. So this will read the underline. He just repeats the Gemara, and he says, Mahadrin yoser al zeva osa mitzvah and amuftar Madlik ner l'chol echad v'echad b'layla rishona u'mosef holech b'chol layla layla echad. So basically the Rambam writes, basically you're going to have 80 candles. 10. See, the first level is 1 candle every night. If you have 10 people in your home, Mahadrin is 10 every night. Mahadrin, you take the day times the members, you're left with 80 candles. There's a fundamental dispute here between how you learn the Gemara, between Tosfos and the Rambam. What is the highest, the most optimal way of lighting Chanukah candles? If I have 10 members in my household, am I going to end up with 8 candles the last night of Chanukah, or 80? Rambam says 80, Tosfos says 8. What is the issue at hand? What is the Nakudas HaMachlokas? What's the issue here between Tosfos and the Rambam? Why does Tosfos say 8's better? And why does the Rambam, we touched on Tosfos himself already, said why he thinks 8's better. But and the Rambam says 80. But where do they get their opinions from? Is what's not necessarily Svara, but based on what? Yeah.
One of the challenges I have here is that number one, if you're just walking along the street, you don't know how many people are living in a house. So on the 6th day of Hanukkah, if 2 people living in the house, you could have 6 candles. Sorry. You could have.
Either.
So what the problem is that you don't really know what publicizing what day of Hanukkah is by lighting anything less than 8 candles.
Right, that's Tosfos' point. The Rambam we'll see is going to go with that. According to the Rambam, clearly that's not the mitzvah for Sumei Nisa. I'll tell you, the Rambam would hold is let's say you're walking down the street. Would you notice 8 candles or 80? Not. It's much
80 you couldn't count.
No, I mean, but many candles to be, might catch your attention. So Ram would say, the point is, there's something, you don't have to know it's the first night, 8th night. The point is, it's for Sumei Nisa. That's the But I'm asking more, so perhaps the Vilna Gaon says as follows, we gave 2 reasons for both. I'll stick to Beis Hillel since that's the opinion we follow. There are 2 reasons why Beis Hillel says what he says. Either because you ask yourself what day of Chanukah it is, Kedeged Yamin HaNechnas Yotzim, and Malin B'Kodesh Ve'ein Moridin. So the 2 reasons to the Gemara, which one is primary, which one is secondary. So Tosfos clearly learns the first reason is the key. Keneged Yamim HaYotzin. It's important to know exactly what day it is. So clearly Tosfos says that's how he learns the Gemara, and therefore he says that's the greatest hinder. Tosfos clearly learns Malin B'Kodesh Ve'ein Moridin. It's not a matter of what day of Chanukah it is. You have to keep on being Marbe B'Neiros, and the more candles you do, the more attention you'll draw, and more people, it's Chanukah, that's what, they have 60 candles in the window. So it seems to be, the reason seems to be based on which is the major reason in the Gemara. Is it the first reason or the second? So that's the Machlokas Rambam and Tosfos, whether it's 80 or 8. Interesting, in Psak Halacha, so the general Psak is, the Svardim usually follow the Rambam, and the Ashkenaz follow the Bali Tosfos. But on Chanukah, it's the reverse. The Svardim, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, the next note, Kama Neros Madlik, Balayla Harisha Madlik, Alach, Mikan Ve'elach, Moshe B'holech, B'chol Layla, Asher B'leil Achron Yeshmona, V'afil Im Rabbi M'nei Abayis, V'ol Yadliku Yot. Doesn't make a difference how many people in your home. He's quoting Mechaber. Rabbi Yosef Karo is quoting the Shitas of Tosfos that you light 1 menorah. Within Sfardim, you always have different customs, but the custom the Mechaber is bringing down is interesting, like the Bali Tosfos. And the Ramah, Haga, v'yesh omrim, d'chol echad m'nei abayis yadilach v'chein ha'minig pasha. And the Ramah says, like the Rambam, you have 80 candles, assuming 10 members. So it's interesting that by Chanukah it's the reverse, that the Sfardim go with the Bali Tosfos, and the Ashkenaz go with the Rambam. So that's the Machlokas Tosfos and the Rambam, and we said it's a Machlokas Machaber Ramah. Svardim do 1 candle, 1 menorah per household, and we light as many members of the household. Everyone lights their own menorah. See, it's actually really like we do today. It's kind of like a compromise, because during the days of the Rabbi, they didn't have menorahs, so they used to just put candles. So today, if we have menorahs, we could actually fulfill both. Because if the menorah is separate, people can figure out what day of Chanukah it is, and also at the same time, you can be married. So we're kind of like we have the best of both worlds. But either way, so that's the machlokas. So the Ramah seems to follow the Rambam, that there are 80 candles at the end of the day. However, there's a slight difference between how the Ramah says it and how the Rambam says it. What's the difference? They both say you have 80 candles at the end of the day. The Rambam says the Baal Habayis, the head of the household, has to light all 80. There's no break. He has to go and actually physically light all 80 candles. And the Ramah says, no, each person lights their own menorah. So what's that machlokas all about? What's forcing the Rambam to say that the Baal Habayis has to light all 80? What's the big deal? Spread the wealth, give it to other people to light. What's the issue here? So there's a famous Beis Halevi, that's from the Soloveitchik dynasty. So he wants to explain a Gemara in Shabbos regarding the mitzvah of Milah, and then his grandson, the Brisker Rav, wants to tie it into our dispute here between the Rambam and the Ramah. So let me give you some background info. The Gemara in Shabbos, on Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, which is the 19th parak in Shabbos, which deals with the mitzvah of Milah. That's what the 19th parak is all about. So the Gemara has the following case. First of all, it talks about there's different, without getting too graphic, there are different types of part of the skin that you have to cut off. It's called tzitzin hama'akvin, meaning if you don't cut off this amount, you haven't done the mitzvah milah. And then there's tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin. Then you have these certain strands where you should cut them off, but if you don't do it, it's still good. So why do you cut them off at all? That's based on the mitzvah of Zek Keli Va'anvehu. That's based on the mitzvah, Hiddur mitzvah. There's a general mitzvah in the Torah that we try to glorify mitzvahs. We do mitzvahs in the ultimate way. And therefore, part of doing the milah properly, we have a nice pair of tefillin, you buy a nice lulav and esrog, we have a concept of Hiddur mitzvah. So therefore, we do the tzitzin hama'akvin. The tzitzin hama'akvin, we want to cut off everything to make it look the best, to make it to be the best way to do the milah. So okay, that's just the facts. So now the Gemara quotes the Brisa that says as follows: someone's in the middle of doing the milah, or hopefully a moel, and he realizes either he forgot to do the tzitzin hama'akvin or the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin. So the Gemara says, as long as he's in the middle, he's still doing the milah, so go back on both. That's pretty obvious. That's what the Gemara says. However, the Gemara says, perish, let's say you finished. So what exactly finishes? I mean, like we know there's the milah, there's the priya, you reveal the membrane, there's the metzitza, well, I'm not getting discussed whether it's metzitza b'kli, metzitza b'peh, but you do a metzitza, you suck out the blood. And of course there's the bagel and lox. So at what point is it considered the milah being over? So let's assume that the bagel and lox is over already. So you're having the breakfast, and all of a sudden, wait a second, I realized I forgot to do the tzitzin hama'akvin. So you better get up and right away and go ahead and do the meal, because nothing's been done yet. If you haven't done the tzitzin. However, the Gemara says if it's a tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin, perish eino chos, you don't have to go back. So that's the brisa. That if you kol zman you're involved in the meal, you go back on everything. But if you're already eating breakfast, so on the tzitzin hama'akvin, the ones that you need are prerequisite, and you have to go back and finish the job. You haven't begun it yet. However, if it's for the Hiddur mitzvah, the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin, you don't have to go back. So why don't you have to go back for the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin? I understand tzitzin ma'akvin, you definitely have to go back. If you haven't done it, there's no mitzvah. But why not for the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin? Why wouldn't you go back? What's the problem going back? Why would I want to fulfill Hiddur mitzvah? Right, okay, well let's assume, yeah.
Is it a question only Gashmias? I mean, it's
no.
No,
So you make it appear like that was Makvin, but it's not.
No, I'm saying it's not.
It's not, but if you go back and make it appear that...
Oh, you're saying, it's a chashash. A person might think it's makib. Okay, possibly. So it goes like this: that first I have to ask a more fundamental question. What day are we talking about?
the 8th day.
Right. It's hopefully the 8th day, and if it's a Mila Bismana, right. So it's clearly going to. So we'll see. According to Rashi, it's definitely the 8th day because to have a Mila on Shabbos, only Mila Bismana, only a Mila on day 8 supersedes Shabbos. But let's say a baby is sick, and you have to wait to day 9, 10, 11, 12. If the first day the baby's ready is Shabbos, you have to wait to Sunday. And that's and as well we assume a suffix Mila Bismana as well. Let's say the old Ben Hashmashas baby, if someone's born, let's say sunset, we'll call it about 5 o'clock these days. Let's say this Friday night, Friday afternoon night, whatever you want to call it, the baby's born after sunset, before Seitzach Chavim. If he's born that night, after nightfall, it's definitely the next day. If you're born before sunset, it's definitely the day before. The question, the in between time, between sunset, after sunset, before the 3 stars come out, that's known in Halakha as Safek Yom, Safek Laila. It's doubtful, and therefore if a baby boy is born during that time, one cannot do a bris on Shabbos, because maybe he was born on Friday, and it's no longer day 8, it's day 9, and therefore since it's a Safek Mila Bismana, we wait until Sunday. Could you give me another case where a healthy baby, day 8, you don't do on Shabbos? Could you give me a case where a healthy baby, day 8, we don't do it on Shabbos? It's not an uncommon occurrence.
Maybe if it was cesarean.
Very good. So a C-section baby. So actually that's the Gemara in Shabbos as well. The Gemara talks about what day should you do a C-section baby. So, well, hey, why not? We do Milas on day 8. Why would we discriminate against a C-section baby? Why wouldn't it be day 8? Based on a pasuk in Tazria. What does the pasuk say in Tazria? Where we talk about Mila. Isha kisazria v'yelda zachar. A woman conceives and has a boy. The tama shivas yamim. And she becomes tama, biblically speaking. It's a lot more today, but biblically speaking, 7 days. 7 days, because the Gemara says for the 8th day you want the husband and wife to be able to be together. So it's just 7 days you do the bris on the 8th day. So the pasuk seems to connect the Yom Shmini with Tumas Leda. So again, it doesn't really apply today, but strictly speaking, a C-section baby, a woman only becomes tamei if dam comes from that area. But if she has a C-section baby, strictly speaking, she doesn't become tamei. So therefore, one opinion in the Gemara is, and there's no reason to wait to day 8. A C-section baby, you do day 1. And others say no. What about by Avram Avinu? Even before Tuma, they did it day 8. So it's a machlokas in the Gemara whether a C-section baby is day 1 or day 8. So it's a sveika dedina. It's a suffix. We're not sure. So if the bris is on Tuesday, if the baby's born on Tuesdays, so we wait to day 8 because you can't lose, because if you're supposed to do it day 8 and you do it day 2, it's a problem. But if you're supposed to do it day 1 and you do it day 8, it's still okay.
Could you do it on, if the baby's born on Shabbat, could you have the Brit Milah on Friday? If it's C-section? Could it be 7 or it has to be more than
No, so either way, so it's either 1 or 8. So
oh, I see.
So
okay.
we go chumrah. So therefore, since we're not sure, we always wait to day 8 to cover ourselves. However, but if day 8 is Shabbos, it's only a suffix milah, because maybe really it's day 1, so you can't do a C-section baby on Shabbos. Interesting, today the contemporary poskim talk about even like in all the different modern technologies, say to getting a woman pregnant in vitro, and so according to many poskim, if a woman went through these fertility clinics and all that, it's a shaila of doing a milah on day 8 as well. Avaji Yosef he says you could do it on day 8. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Rav Herschel Schachter, or many others say one should not do a bris on day 8 because it's based on based on a Gemara in Chagiga. It's not the same concept. The Gemara in Chagiga, which has a Gemara about immaculate conception, or seems that way, that a woman becomes pregnant when she went into a bathtub. So therefore, either it's a whole Gemara over there, how you learn it, it's a separate discussion, but the bottom line, the contemporary poskim say you shouldn't do a bris on day 8. Again, it's no one's business, so therefore you don't have to tell anyone why you're not doing it on Shabbos. And in fact, they even say you could do a while. You could say, the baby, it's jaundice that Moel said to work. You don't have to tell anyone. It's no one's business. You went to the fertility clinic. You don't have to tell anyone. But if the Moel or Rabbi knows, then we usually wait to Sunday for the bris.
What's the reason that you fertility clinic?
The issue is, the question is, the Gemara in Chagiga talks about that if someone is born from like the immaculate from the so the Gemara considers that like that's derech nes. It's not the normal way. So Rabbi Chanel says you don't do a bris on day 8 because it's not a normal, wasn't the normal way of having children, and therefore you can't have it on Shabbos. So the question is it what's considered? Is it you need a miraculous occurrence, or you need something which isn't the normal relation? So if you need miraculous, so artificial insemination, that's not miraculous. That was science. We figured out how to do it. So if it's based on that reason, so then it would be okay. But if it's based on not the normal way husband and wife live together, so then that's two opinions in Rabbi Yochanan, to Rav Shlomo Zalman and others are machmir, that was strict on that. That's why you don't have a bris on Shabbos if it's from all those different modern technology ways. But getting back here, so the Gemara says, so Rashi says, you know why we don't go? Because I asked, why in the world wouldn't you go back for the sitz and shein ma'akvin? So what? They're not an obstacle, but why not do them? Why not fulfill Hiddur Mitzvah? So Rashi writes, B'Shabbos. The Bryce is talking about, that's what the Gemara is talking about, it's on Shabbos. That's why you don't go back. According to Rashi, on Sunday you could go back and do it. In fact, maybe you should go back and do it according to, you wait to Sunday and do it. But Rashi is talking about on Shabbos, so Hiddur Mitzvah isn't Docha Shabbos. See, without the Pasuk in the Chumash, it would be us to do a bris. Well, it would be us to do a bris at all. But it's biyasa we only allowed to do a bris on Shabbos. We have a pasuk telling us Yom Hashmini Imo Uva Yom Hafilu b'Shabbos. So he says a milah is docha Shabbos, but not the Hiddur Mitzvah of milah, and therefore that's Rashi. It makes sense. During the week you'd go back even on the sitz and chena, but the Bryce is talking about Shabbos, and that's why you don't go back. But the Rambam, he says the Bryce is talking about during the week. Ben b'chol, ben b'Shabbos. So according to the Rambam, the question is why not go back? Bishrom, according to Rashi, it's Shabbos. I understand. Hiddur Mitzvah doesn't supersede Shabbos. But according to the Rambam, he says even on Tuesday you don't go back. Why in the world would you not go back on Tuesday? What's the problem? So the Chasim Sofer says the problem is sakana. It's not sakana, but there's a prohibition in the Torah of chavola, of causing damage to yourself, and as well chova b'chaveiro. You can't cause damage to someone else. So the Chasim Sofer writes that to be chova b'chaveiro. So if the Torah tells me to do a milah, I have to mal the child. It's not my choice. And the many nations coming out banning milah, etc. But for Hiddur Mitzvah to do chavola on someone else, that doesn't warrant a chavola. If you fulfill the mitzvah milah, so to do it on someone else. If you want to do it on yourself, so that's okay. But to do it on someone else, you have no right to be mochel on them. So that's what the Chasim Sofer says. The reason why the Rambam says not to go back during the week is because there's no heter of doing the wound itself. The Brisker Rav gives a totally different answer. He says that's not the reason. He says it has to do with a fundamental question of Hiddur Mitzvah. How do we understand the concept of Hiddur Mitzvah? So we said you have a nice esrog, a nice pair of tefillin, nice mezuzah, nice sefer Torah, nice tefillin, whatever, have nice Shabbos, whatever it is, the candelabras, menorah, Chanuka. So there's a general mitzvah, zek keli vanveyo. So let me ask you something. So it's Hiddur Mitzvah, so let's say when I do a Hiddur Mitzvah on tefillin or on sukkahs, on the esrog. Is that enhancing the mitzvah itself? In other words, is that part and parcel of the mitzvah what I'm doing? Like, it doesn't have its own identity, hider mitzvah. It's part and parcel of whatever it takes on tefillin, it takes on esrog, whatever hider mitzvah I'm doing. It only makes sense it's connected to the actual mitzvah. Or do I say no? Hider mitzvah stands on its own 2 feet. In other words, there's a general mitzvah of hider mitzvah. So whatever mitzvah I do, whether it's esrog, tefillin, sukkah, I get the same hider mitzvah. It's independent. In addition to what I'm doing, if it's the generic hider mitzvah, they say no. When I do a hider mitzvah of esrog, I'm enhancing my esrog. It's not hider mitzvah per se. It's part of the question is, can you separate hider mitzvah from the actual mitzvah itself? That's what the Brisker Rav raises. So he thinks that's the issue here. He says, we know we have the mitzvah of milah, the sitzin ha'ma'akvin, and then we have the sitzin she'ein ha'ma'akvin, the hider mitzvah. So the question is, does it make sense to do hider mitzvah in a vacuum? In other words, I did the bris 2 hours ago, whatever. Let's say I figured it out 2 days later, a week later. I already fulfilled my mitzvah bris milah, and now I just noticed I haven't done the sitzin she'ein ha'ma'akvin. So is there any value in me going ahead and doing it? So the Brisker Rav says the Shitas HaRambam is no. Hider mitzvah only makes sense in the context of the actual mitzvah itself. You can't do a hider mitzvah in a vacuum. So that's why, if you're involved in the mitzvah of milah and you remembered you didn't do them, then go back and do it. But once you finish, even during the week, there's no value. If there's no value, then it could even be over an Isser doing it, because then it is causing a harm to no benefit. So the Rambam's opinion is you can't separate the hider mitzvah from the actual. They have to go hand in hand. And Rashi and the Torah clearly disagree and say no. Hider mitzvah makes sense independently. And so what? So my mitzvah milah I fulfilled on Shabbos, and now Sunday I'll fulfill an independent mitzvah of hider. So that seems to be that's how the Brisker Rav explains the dispute here between Rashi and the Rambam on how you view hider mitzvah. Does hider mitzvah make sense in a vacuum? That's Rashi, or the Rambam says no. It only makes sense in the context of the Ma'aseh mitzvah. That's the Beis Halevi. It comes along. That's one way the Beis Halevi interprets it. The Beis Halevi throws in a second possible way of understanding the dispute. I'll just mention it for a minute. He says, no, everyone agrees you can't separate hider mitzvah from the actual mitzvah. Even Rashi agrees to that. If that's the case, how can Rashi say the next day you go ahead and do it? So he says, it's a more fundamental question here. What is the mitzvah of milah? Is the mitzvah of milah the cutting off of the foreskin? Is that the mitzvah? Well, no, it's not just the cutting off to the foreskin, but it's result-oriented. You're considered a gemalt now. Every moment you walk around being gemalt, that's also a mitzvah. Like the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, David HaMelech, when he was in the bathhouse, he was very depressed. He couldn't do any mitzvahs. Then it says, Niskar, he remembered about his mitzvah milah, and he was comforted. So the question, like, did he just go ahead and just do a bris milah in the bathhouse? Of course not. He did his bris milah a long time ago. But we see from here, the mitzvah milah is a continuous mitzvah. Once you do the milah, so maybe that's the machlokas. Everyone agrees you have to be connected to the mitzvah. The Rambam holds the mitzvah is just the actual cutting. So therefore, once you finish, it's all over. And Rashi says it's a continuous mitzvah. You can always go back and do that. But that's the second. We'll go back to our first way. The first way the Beis Halevi said is, that is the issue. Does hider mitzvah make sense in a vacuum? Rashi says yes. And the Rambam says no, only if it's connected to the actual mitzvah. Ad kan Beis Halevi. Comes along the Brisker Rav and says, I want to tie this in. This is the machlokes here by Chanuka between the Rambam and the Ramah. What's the machlokes? Both the Rambam and the Ramah agree. Mahajma means you light 80 candles the last night of Hanukkah. 10 members in your home times 8, you have your 80. Everyone, the machlokas, the Rambam says the Baal Habayis has to light all 80, and the Ramah says no, we all light our own. So what's the issue? bothering the Rambam? Why is the Rambam forcing the Balabayas to light all 80? Why can't everyone light their own candles? So the Brisker Rosh is the issue, because how did we start off the Shir tonight? How does one fulfill the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah? How many candles do you need? One. So once you light one candle in your home, that is the end of the mitzvah. That's the second to 80 is all Hiddur mitzvah. But the actual mitzvah itself is only the first candle. So the Rambam's consistent with his view. The Rambam who says you can't separate Hiddur mitzvah from the actual mitzvah, the person who lit that first candle, he's the only person doing the actual mitzvah. The next 79 are Hiddur. So whoever did the first candle has to do the next 79. And the Ramah is working with the opinion of Rashi. No. Hiddur mitzvah makes sense independently. Just like the Ramah says, it's like Rashi says you could go back on Sunday to do the Sitzin She'ena Ma'akvin. So too, you can do a Hiddur mitzvah by itself. And therefore, even though every person can do their own candles. So that's the way the Brisker Rav explains the Machlokas, the Rambam and the Ramah, but the Balabayas has to light all 80. According, it's consistent with the view you can't separate Hiddur mitzvah from the mitzvah itself. And Ramah is going like Rashi, that no, you can't. So you don't have. So according to the Brisker Rav, he's saying the Ramah is assuming that every person who's lighting is doing a Hiddur mitzvah. You don't necessarily have to say that. Maybe the Ramah is assuming that every person, I don't have a mind to fulfill your mitzvah. When a person lights their own menorah, unless you have 10 people in the home, maybe everyone's doing their own mitzvah. Maybe I don't have a mind to fulfill my mitzvah with you. We do it all the time. We have one person, we have that, different people want to make their own Kiddush Friday night, or you can listen. So a person can have negative kavanah and not have. So maybe the Ramah is not even talking about Hiddur mitzvah. But so therefore, perhaps you could say, so what is then another way to explain the Machlokas, the Ramah and the Rambam? It touches also another fundamental part of what exactly is the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. What they call is it a chovas Hagavra? Is it a personal obligation on any one of us? Men, women are chayav in Ner Chanukah as well. So is it a personal obligation on anyone? Or no? Is it like the mitzvah of mezuzah? It's a chovas habayis. It's an obligation on the house. So that perhaps is the machlokas. The Rambam holds it's a chovas habayis. So once you lit that first candle, that's it. The mitzvah is done in his house. The next 79 are Hiddur. But maybe the Ramah holds that it's an individual obligation. So it's true you have an option if you want to be Yotze with someone else, but if you want to do your own, you have a chiyuv. So that seems to be another way of trying to understand the machlokas between the Ramah and the Rambam. But so we go with the Ramah, is that everyone lights their own menorah, and that's a general question. Do you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? In other words, let's say it's not an uncommon. Let's say someone is lighting Chanukah candles. It's the 7th night of Chanukah, and you lit the first 2 candles, and you forgot to make a bracha, and now you're about to light the 3rd candle. Is it too late to make the bracha, or could you make a bracha now? So if it's the first night, it won't be the first night because of that, but if Shasa Nisim and Shechiyanu is not an issue, because even someone who sees them can make a bracha. So the question is, the other bracha you could definitely make Shasa Nisim, that's the Birkas Hodah. But what about, could I still make Lahadut Ner Shel Chanukah if I lit 2, make up your own hypothetical, but I already lit some of the candles, or even some point out, let's say I lit 6, let's say it was the 7th night, I thought it was the 6th night, I lit 6 candles, then about 10 minutes later I said, wait a second, it's the 7th, and I light another candle, can I make a bracha on that 7th candle? So the issue is, can you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? So that's a discussion among the Akronim. However, regarding Ner Chanukah, based on a couple of issues, I'll tell you right now, we assume yes. In other words, because number one is, there's a general dispute on whether you can make a bracha after a mitzvah. It's a machlokas Rambam versus the Or Zarua. It talks about shchita, but it applies to any mitzvah. Let's say you didn't make the bracha and you finished slaughtering the animal. can I still make the bracha afterwards? This is a general rule. So the Rambam says no, that's it, you missed it, that's the end of it. And the Arzura says that you didn't do it ideally, but it's not too late. What's the issue? There's one machlokas in general. Could I make a bracha? We normally assume no, you can't. We assume like the Rambam, but it's a machlokas. And it's another machlokas. Can you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? But over here by Chanuka, they say, let's say you remember within the first half an hour. So it's a continuous mitzvah. The candles are still going. Let's say a talis. For some reason, let's say you're davening early, you could make a bracha. So all you have to do is move the talis around. You're still doing the mitzvah. You can make the bracha. So Chanuka is a continuous mitzvah for those times that the 30 minutes it has to be lit. So therefore, it's like the mitzvah is still in front of you. So therefore, so to make another bracha on that, so people would be more reluctant. But on the issue of the first two, and then let's say you lit 2 candles and didn't make any bracha, so then Rabbi Kiva Eger writes, and that seems to be the minhag, you could be lenient and you can make. So making a bracha in general on Hiddur mitzvah is a machlokas, but in this case on Chanuka, it's a goal. And this to conclude with a dvar machshava, with a thought on Chanuka is before let me just summarize and then I'll give you the machshava. So we discussed the machlokas in the Gemara and Shabbos on what is the obligation of Ner Chanuka. So level number 1 candle every night of Chanuka. Hamahadrin, again we'll go with the 10 every night of Chanuka. Hamahadrin and Ahadrin, machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, you go up or down. They each have 2 reasons, either Keneged Yamim Hayotz or Nechnasin. Beis Shammai goes with the Pari Achag, the cows on Sukkot, and you go down. And Beis Hillel goes with Malon Makodesh Ve'imoridin. What's the connection between Sukkot and Chanuka? 8 days, we do the mitzvah outside. You can't put in more. The Sukkot can't be Mimalo Chafama, and there is Chanuka can't be as well. And we said, so what is what is actually Mahadrin and Mahadrin? So Tosfos says it's going back on the first level. So instead of lighting 1 candle every night, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the Sephardi practice, 1 menorah in the whole house. The Rambam writes you have 80 candles the last night of Chanuka. That's Mahadrin and Mahadrin. What's the machlokas Tosfos and Rambam based on the Gemara? Which is the ikar reason? So Tosfos learns the main reason is Keneged Yamim Hayotzim HaNechnasin, and therefore it's clear you have to know what day it is, and therefore that's why that's the best hiddur. The Rambam goes with Malon Makodesh Ve'imoridin. And then we had a further dispute between the Rambam and the Ramah. It's good, it's 80 candles, but who's lighting them? The Rambam holds all 80, the Balabayas. Ramah says everyone lights their own. What's it all about? The Gemara in Shabbos by Mila, the Brisker Rav. Does Hiddur mitzvah make sense only in the context of the mitzvah, or even independently? So that was the machlokas by the Sitz and Shein and Ma'akvin. The Rambam says even during the week you can't go back because Hiddur mitzvah only makes sense together with the mitzvah. Rashi disagrees and says Hiddur mitzvah makes sense by itself. So that's the machlokas here. The Rambam, the one who lit the first candle, is doing the mitzvah. The next 79 is Hiddur, and therefore the Balabai says to light all 80, and the Ramah says no. Like the Rashi, Hiddur mitzvah makes sense, and perhaps even making a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah. So we said one way to explain it was whether it's a mitzvah on the house or on the individual. So why would I say that normally we have personal obligation? Why would I say Ner Chanuka is a choves habayis? So that's what the commentators explain is because what were the Greeks all about? It was a fight against the bias. Now, basically, a fundamental difference between, let's say, the Yontif of Purim and the Yontif of Chanukah is that by Purim it was a much more physical thing. Haman wanted to physically annihilate men, women, children. He didn't care. He wanted us all dead. By Chanukah, the Greeks didn't want us dead. That was the last reason. They wanted us to take on the Greek culture, be like the Hellenist Jew, and take on. And there was a whole fight. That's what they banned us from doing from Rosh Chodesh, which is the uniqueness of the Jewish people. Shabbos, all the things that showed the uniqueness of a Jew. In fact, the Rambam, when he talks about, they even made you leave the doors open because they wanted to break down the whole fabric. They realized, you look around today, it doesn't take much to figure it out, that there's no family values anymore. People don't even have families. They don't even know who their father is, and it's no surprise that the world looks like it does today. The basis of anything is you have to have a strong family unit. In fact, that's what we mentioned last week, that if you only have enough money to do either near Shabbos or near Hanukkah, the money is used for near Shabbos because Shalom Bayis went. And the Rambam, what is that saying is that Hanukkah won a tremendous military victories, but in Judaism we value the home over the military. And that's the Yesod of Hanukkah, that they try to attack the home, and therefore they try to attack the home. So when Chazal set up the mitzvah of Ner Hanukkah, they B'davka set it up on the house itself, and therefore, if you light one candle per household, that is enough to fulfill the mitzvah of Ner Hanukkah.